January 19th, the Mesabi Miner was the last vessel of the 2006-2007 shipping season in Duluth. After a brief stop at the port terminal, she is backing away from the dock to move to her winter berth at Midwest Energy Resources. The Roger Blau, already at her dock for the winter, came in on January 13th. The Great Lakes tug North Carolina is coming out between the two larger boats, and the Coast Guard cutter Alder sits just beyond in case she is needed for icebreaking in the shipping channel. Into February, the winter was very warm with no snow. The John Bear Grease sled dog race was canceled after it was postponed from January to February. The Snowshoe Marathon became a running marathon in January. Then in early February it got very cold. No snow and cold temperatures provided several acres of a wonderful new playground. Each day for about a week in the middle of February, more people ventured out onto the lake. Many were doing what they always do on the lake in winter, fishing inside their portable houses. They were now joined by figure skaters, walkers, and cross-country skiers. I saw several hockey games played on the clear ice also. In mid-February, a 4-year-old girl was walking on the clear ice just off the Lake Superior side of Park Point when she saw a strange structure resting on the bottom. Soon someone drilled a hole in the ice, lowered an underwater camera, and took a picture. It appeared to be a shipwreck, or at least part of a shipwreck. Jay Hansen, who owns the Superior Scuba Center, is here dropping into the water to check out the vessel. Since the engine was gone, he thought the boat, probably a tug, had been stripped of some of its valuable parts and then scuttled there. In late February 2007, we had winds gusting to 66 miles per hour, but the sheet of ice in front of the Aerial Bridge did not break up. In fact, the ice sheet seemed to protect a small patch of open water just in front of the Aerial Bridge. This was not a good sign for the coming shipping season. We had 11 boats in layup in Duluth Superior that winter. Here is the Mesabi Miner in Midwest Energy. The Stuart J. Court, built in 1972 and the first 1,000-footer on the Great Lakes, was berthed at the St. Lawrence Cement Dock in Duluth, now known as the Wholesome Dock. The two Vista boats were laid up at Fraser Shipyards. The Vista King in the front was sold at the end of the 2010 season and is no longer here. The Vista Star, still very much here, is behind her, and the K.E. Barker is in back. At right, the K.E. Barker sits with the St. Clair just behind her, and the Cason J. Callaway is behind her. The John G. Munson was in the Fraser Dry Dock getting a complete checkup and a new paint job. The big 90-ton gantry cranes at the port terminal, built in 1959, were down for an upgrade and a new paint job. Here the cranes are operating in tandem as they discharge wind turbine base units from the Dutch flag Donningberg in September 2010. On March 13th, with the opening of the shipping season only 3 days away, Captain Kevin Worth held a press conference to announce the Alder had engine problems and could not get out. Another cutter, the ice-breaking tug Biscayne Bay, was on her way to Duluth. The next day, the Biscayne Bay appeared over the horizon. She had to hit the 12-foot ice ridge at the far edge of the ice pack 8 times before she could break it apart and continue on to Duluth. Built in 1979, the Biscayne Bay is an icebreaker tug. At 149 feet long, she is a lot smaller than the 180-foot Sundew and the 225-foot Alder, seen here at the right at her dock. But the Sundew and Alder are officially called buoy tenders, with reinforced icebreaking capabilities, but still buoy tenders. The Biscayne Bay was built as an icebreaker. The Mesabi Miner was scheduled to depart the port 2 days later. She would be the first departure of the season, taking 58,000 tons of coal to Marquette. It was a quick trip and would bring her back in a day or two to get another cargo of coal, this time from Minnesota Power in Taconite Harbor. On Friday morning, March 16th, after a sizable snow hit the Twin Ports, I walked over to the Biscayne Bay and had to wait for 2 crew members to shovel the snow on the sidewalk before boarding the ship. Later that morning, I was able to go out with the Biscayne Bay when she left the dock to assist the Mesabi Miner. After hearing that the miner was about to leave the dock at Midwest Energy, we went under the lift bridge and started the slow but steady trip to the edge of the ice sheet in front of Duluth, about 5 miles out. Behind us and coming under the lift bridge on the same lift was the Mesabi Miner. The bridge was up for 41 minutes.
This all worked out real nice.
That Captain went real well. Glad that track worked out for you. Got through the sticky parts real good.
All right, well, sounds real good, and we'll talk to you later. And thanks for your assistance today. And you guys have a good day there running in the ice.
Good job, Mesabi Miner. You have a good trip over to Marquette, and not sure if we'll see you, but have a good trip there.
Will do, and I'll give you guys a shout on our way in here. Give you an ATA for coming back in. Maybe you'll be in the area still.
Where's that, Captain? Biscayne Bay?
As we heard the Biscayne Bay tell the Mesabi Miner captain, she did not think she would be still in town when the miner returned. So she did the next best thing, freshening the track as she departed on Sunday, March 18th. The wider track here is still the first departure of the miner. Inside we can see the Biscayne Bay strip as she departed the port, and can still see some of it early Monday morning. On Monday, the Mesabi Miner came back from Marquette, following and covering the Biscayne Bay's departure track as she came in. Notice her bow is right on the smaller Biscayne Bay's track laid the day before. She was now the first vessel to arrive in port that season, coming back to get another cargo of coal, this time from Minnesota Power in Taconite Harbor. The Roger Blau departed the port on the 23rd, giving her time to load in two harbors and then get to the Soo Locks when they opened on March 25th. There were also some Canadian boats that wintered in Thunder Bay and came here for coal to take back to Thunder Bay before the Soo Locks opened on the 25th. The CSL Laurentian came in on the 23rd, and the Algo Soo was greeted by nice crowds when she came in the next day. She returned again on the 29th for more coal, taking it this time to Nanticoke beyond the Soo Locks. The H. Lee White arrived on March 26th, loading iron ore pellets at the Burlington Northern Dock. The White usually loads taconite at Silver Bay, so we don't see her that often. She was the first boat to travel the entire length of the St. Lawrence Seaway system, so we had a little celebration on the boat. Here, H. Lee White Captain Steve Hooton holds a book about the port that the Port Authority presented him in honor of his first arrival. The ice pack beyond the bridge was a popular parking lot for boats waiting for a dock. Despite what it seems, none of these vessels were stuck in the ice. In the lower part of the picture, we see the James R. Barker departing and the Canadian provider just about to pass by her on her way to load grain at CHS in Superior. The Edgar B. Spear, on the left, came in around noon and left later in the day for Two Harbors. On the right, the Algo Soo was waiting for Midwest Energy. Here, the Algowood was waiting to move into the coal dock at Midwest Energy. On Friday morning, the John G. Munson departed Duluth, going to Two Harbors to load iron ore pellets. That dock was not yet available, so she turned into the ice just southwest of the South Pier Light to wait for dock availability in two harbors and better weather. That night the Munson was still waiting in the ice, or maybe stuck in the ice. There was some hope that the Canadian flag Quebecois, due Saturday afternoon, would come by on her way in and break up the ice near the Munson, but the Quebecois, carrying the year's first cement cargo, got stopped in the ice too. Since the Coast Guard at this point had no plans to send another cutter to Duluth, both the Quebecois and the CSL Assiniboine assumed they had few alternatives other than to wait for spring. On Sunday morning, the Mesabi Miner, with McMullen still in charge, was at Midwest Energy ready to depart. The day before, he had planned to wait until the CSL Assiniboine came in and then open up the ice, but the Assiniboine failed, the second vessel to be claimed by the ice pack. She joined the Quebecois on the ice, both stuck tight. The Quebecois called McMullen on Sunday morning to tell him of the ice conditions in the lake beyond the bridge, and also to encourage McMullen to come out and free the two Canadian vessels as he was departing. It was not an easy call for McMullen because he had no Coast Guard backup, and already two boats were stuck in the ice. He did not want to be number 3. He called the Home Office in Cleveland, telling them he thought his chances were about 50-50. They left the decision up to him. McMullen told me then I had to think about it. The worst that could happen, he would be stuck in the ice outside the bridge. If he didn't try it, he would be stranded at the dock until the wind and warm weather would break open the ice too. Either way, he would be waiting for weather, so he decided he had nothing to lose. He left the dock at Midwest. He called his chief engineer and told him to give it all they had as soon as they made the turn toward the lift bridge. He estimated he was going about 12 miles per hour as he went under the bridge, twice as fast as he would normally go. By the time he reached the outer edge of the ice, he was down to 2 miles per hour and would not have been able to go much further. I was watching and didn't think he would even come close to making it, but what do I know? In talking to McMullen later, he reminded me about momentum. He hit the ice at 12 miles per hour with 60,000 tons of coal and 1,000 feet of Great Lakes freighter. It takes a while to stop that. And happily it got him to the edge and the two boats were freed. On March 16th, when the Mesabi Miner was at the same place, as we heard earlier, Captain Scott Briggs called the Coast Guard cutter Biscayne Bay to thank them for cutting a path through the ice so the miner could continue to Marquette with the first cargo of the new season. This time, 2 weeks later, the captain on the CSL Assiniboine called Mesabi Miner Captain Tom McMullen to thank him for breaking open the path so the Assiniboine and the Quebecois could both break away from their own ice jams and continue into the harbor. One good turn deserves another. A week or so later, on April 10th, the Rebecca became the first saltwater ship of the year, coming in to load grain at Harvest Dates. As you can see, the ice was still very much around, but was not causing the trouble it was earlier. On the 15th, the Paul R. Tregurtha arrived, and 5 days later, on April 20th, the Philip R. Clark departed through the still lingering ice. The yellow arrow points to some ice that was still around when the Sundew departed on April 28th that year. Earlier in this video, I flashed the picture of Mesabi Miner Captain Scott Briggs. He was calling the Biscayne Bay to thank them for their assistance. In putting this video together, I originally was not sure it was Briggs talking. My notes told me it was Tom McMullen's voice, but it didn't quite sound like it to me. I emailed both to be sure. I had McMullen's picture at first and sent them a link to the video. Both came back telling me the voice belonged to Briggs. Coincidentally, the picture I was using showed both of them talking to Alder Commander Kevin Worth the following year. To correct things, all I had to do was move the zoom picture over from McMullen to Briggs. Telling the story also gives Kevin a better part in the video. Earlier in the video, his only part was to announce that the Alder needed repairs. With the Alder out of action, however, this video was a little more interesting.